Saulcast is brought to you by Best Quality Vacuum Repair. 505-842-4205. Best Quality Vacuum Repair. No trace left behind. Guaranteed. Or my name isn't Mike Ehrmantraut. Take it away, Gil, Adam. Good luck with this episode.
Holy shit, that was good.
Yeah, I gotta say, a little misty in here.
With Kim, when she first started to get kind of emotional, I didn't think it would affect me. I was more in the Jimmy camp.
Mm-hmm.
But as I started to pay more attention to her and less attention to what Jimmy was saying, the mist, I got some dust in my eye.
Yeah, what got me was that my impression is that letter was written a long time ago, before Chuck had really given up on Jimmy.
Yeah, I totally agree. He even made a point of saying it's undated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be cool if we could dig a little into it and try to make our own best guesses about roughly when he must have written it. Because he did say it was good to see the way you rose from the mailroom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering, where does that place him,
right.
historically?
Yeah, it must have been soon after he became a lawyer, right?
I would think so, yeah. What made you more sad? Was it seeing Kim's reaction, or was it the letter itself?
Letter itself when he said undated, that was the first oof. This is probably from a while ago, and okay, that got me primed. Then when he started saying how proud he was, that started to hit me, but didn't really get to me until Kim started to lose it.
Yeah, it was about the same for me. It was surprising. I wasn't expecting Chuck's letter to be as heartfelt as it came out.
Mm-hmm. What were you expecting it to be, if anything?
I thought I didn't think it would be cruel or anything like that. I just thought it wouldn't be very warm either. I thought it might say, I thought it might be very factual and non-affectionate.
Yeah, I think I didn't really speculate in my own mind too much what would be in there. But if I did, this is probably about what I would have expected. Just a tad on the heartfelt side. But, what else would you put in a letter besides things that you felt were unspoken? And we know that Chuck never really expressed too much care for Jimmy. So I knew, or I would have thought, that it had to be something in that realm.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, but one other thing I wanted to say about Jimmy's performance reading the letter, whoever's idea, whichever writer had the idea of having Jimmy say new paragraph every time it was a new paragraph, that was brilliant. Having him, it would have been enough to have him chewing every few seconds, but the addition of new paragraph.
Yeah.
Who says?
I love that.
Why does he feel like he has to point that out? But it's just like he's trying to think of how can I play up how little I care about this letter. All right, I'll eat.
Right.
It's
like you just took the text of the letter and put it into a computer. Yeah. I love that it wasn't just that he was chewing while he was reading it, but he was taking more spoonfuls.
That was amazing.
Yeah. But it's funny because that's so funny to me, and yet the episode on the whole was really dark.
Oh my God. Has this show always been this good, or is this just the best season of Better Call Saul so far?
I'm ready to declare it the best season, but I need to go back and rewatch all of them. Just in the past week, I watched. If you search on YouTube Gus montage or Mike montage, I watched every video that exists under those words. So I'm just craving more content, and I'm definitely going to go back and rewatch the whole series.
Yeah.
I would say that I think we've always thought it was great. I think the way that it's turning now, though, the fact that we already thought it was better than Breaking Bad, but now it's actually getting just as gritty and violent as Breaking Bad was, which wasn't always the case for the show. And I think that's why we love it even more now. Yeah,
well, it's that, but it's also just, it's moving at such a pace. The meeting between Jimmy and Mike so early in the episode, the fallout from last episode with Nacho, Gus telling Nacho that, you're mine now. And immediately the next episode starts just brutal on Nacho. And I have to say, too, you and I, we look foolish right now because we underestimated this show. Last episode, go back and listen to last episode where like, oh, look at this. Mike and Jimmy are going to get together over the figurine. Mm-hmm. That's the easy way to bring them together.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I will say this, though, as foolish as you might think we are, I called that his plan was to replace the figurine.
Remember
I said that. I said that if he's going to steal the figurine, he already showed his face there. I don't think he's going to do anything that makes it obvious. I think he's going to replace it with a replica or something like that.
You didn't say replica.
I called it. We have it on tape. Check the tape. Check your facts.
I know that you're trying to edit this tonight and get it out in the next couple hours, but I want you to go back to last episode.
I'm going to splice
it in because I remember is that you did raise the question of how's he going to steal this without getting caught. I think he's going to do it in a way where they don't notice. That's all you said. I even wrote down in my notebook here, how the heck did we not think of replica? Of course, it's so obvious.
I'm positive, and so I'll splice that in. And if it turns out that I was wrong, I'm just going to delete this entire conversation.
Oh. All right, well, let's make a spot for it. So, listeners, on the count of 3, you're going to hear whether or not Adam was right. 1, 2, 3.
My guess is that he doesn't plan for them to ever know that the item was stolen. Maybe he's going to get a replica made or something to replace it.
Yes, I called it, dude. I knew it.
You're going to sound really stupid.
Okay, now you record a reaction for if
you're wrong. Yeah.
If you're right. Yeah.
Ha. Told you. You look. I enjoy that plate of crow you got right over there. Oh, what is that? Oh, hold on. I got
feathers hanging out of my mouth.
Oh, it's just some egg on your face.
All right. I'm glad we have both options now. So I love the way that it opened with the road spikes, and then you see Victor just get in the car and drive full speed right over them. It was done so well where they showed him trying to control the car. In my head, I'm thinking, okay, he's like, they have some really important thing that they're going to do, so he actually needs to test to make sure that it's going to work. That's how thorough they are.
My thought was that he was setting up a fake crime scene. I didn't know what for. And then I think as soon as I saw Nacho, I knew what they were doing. The moment I saw Nacho, I knew that they were going to open the trunk and you were going to see Arturo in there.
Nacho's life is ruined now. I mean, he is just basically an informant. He has no choice, and not only is he an informant, but he's treated so ruthlessly and down to just whatever mission they need out of him that they'll just shoot him if it puts together a more cohesive story.
And he might get a colon infection.
Yeah, so it makes sense that he explained that he might start leaking shit into his out of his bowels. But as soon as he picked up the gauze and sniffed it during the operation, I knew what he was doing.
Wait, why was he sniffing it? That was to check if there was leaking?
To check if it was feculent, basically, because if the bowel itself gets perforated, you're in serious trouble.
And is it realistic that they would leave the bullet in his shoulder?
Potentially.
So you might walk around with just a bullet in your shoulder for the rest of your life?
It's possible. I think you hear about it with veterans once in a while. I think probably they would try to get it out, but at least in the setup that this guy had, it would have been more trouble than it was worth, because if Nacho had function of his shoulder, like he could move it, and he was getting circulation to his arm, any attempt to go in there and pull the bullet out, especially without image guidance, could have just screwed up his shoulder permanently.
Okay.
If you accidentally nick a nerve or something.
The other thing with this episode And part of me wants to hold this against the show, but every single time somebody gets on the phone and they're like, oh, I got to call somebody for this, or, oh, I got to get somebody. Every time they're going to somebody and we don't know who it is, I start going in my head, okay, who from Breaking Bad could this be?
Yeah. I was wondering if the thief, when we first see his silhouette, I thought maybe it's Huel. He kind of has the same body shape. And it's like, no, it's not Huel.
For half a second, I was like, is it Jesse? And I was like, he probably wouldn't be calling up some high school kid to help him steal it.
He would have been in high school at this point.
Yeah.
Speaking of old characters, I called it. I wrote on my notes, and I'll show you right here. Can you see that?
Gale? Gale, what's that?
I wrote that before Gale showed up.
So when did you guess that?
This was when Gus was on the phone with Don. What's his name? I want to say Don Juan, but I don't think that's his name. Whatever, that Don that he was dealing with.
Yo, Don.
So one of the Don he was talking to, who was like on some ranch, when Gus was talking to him, how they only have enough supply for a week, and the guy Don was telling Gus, we got to get more suppliers, and he's saying, but Don Eladio would never allow that, and he's like, I'll deal with him. Like, Gus, you just have to find a local supplier. As soon as he said that, I was like, Gale!
See, this is, again, sometimes I just feel like an idiot watching this show because my thought was, is he calling Jesse? and then I was like,
don't worry about it, Don. I know a 14-year-old who's a great cook. He goes by Captain Cook. He throws chili powder in there, man.
Yeah. I didn't guess Gale until like 8 words into the Elements song, when he was singing to himself.
What song? Oh, the Elements song. Yeah.
What a perfect intro to that character.
Yeah. All I could think of as he was doing that was his
4,
his rendition
3, 2, 1, Earth below us. Oh, you can't stop it. We'll have to pay royalties if you do one more word.
Good save there. We almost got sued.
Mm-hmm.
We might need to call Saul.
Oh.
I also noticed when Nacho was like on the brink of death, I think he was still in the car, or he was like crawling out of it, and then they shot him again in the side. First of all, just absolutely brutal. And it didn't totally seem necessary. Oh, it makes the story more believable. But on top of that, the music was amazing. If you go back and listen to it, I think it's like in the montage where like everything starts to kind of go black, and for him, you hear this music that almost sounds like ha 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 in the background, and it was pretty disturbing. It was really good.
Yeah, it was. I want to say the word atmospheric.
Yeah.
I was, if you're listening to this, every once in a while you'll probably hear cars drive by because I'm recording in the middle of Manhattan. For a second during that scene, I took my headphones off to see if it was coming from outside, that sound, and I was like, oh, no, okay, it's part of the show.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about doing this as a podcast is when I was going back and splicing scenes into the last episode that we recorded, as I listened to, when you're watching the scene where Arturo gets suffocated, you're just watching what's happening. You're not really thinking about the sound, right? But when I just splice in the audio into this format, I'm hearing how rich the sound that they're using is. And I remember seeing a documentary about how acoustics are done for a lot of films and sound effects. And in the movie Titanic, for example, during some kind of intense scene, probably the scene where the boat is sinking, they hit the glacier, they said they worked in all kinds of like animal noises and like roars from tigers and things like that, which obviously were not present in the film, but they just work it in because it induces the right emotion in the viewer, and you don't consciously pick up on it. And I don't know if I was hearing it correctly, but as I listened to the suffocation scene, I felt like I could hear barking. And it's just like a really rich layer, really a bunch of rich layers of sound that just add intensity that wouldn't actually be there in real life.
I read right before we started recording this a headline of an article that apparently the dragon in Game of Thrones, when it roared, it was the sound of a bunch of drunk Game of Thrones fans screaming.
Is that true?
Yeah, all I read was the headline.
Interesting.
So I haven't read the details. Yeah. But I also like that you, the way you phrased it, when I listened to the suffocation scene, as if you've listened to it multiple times. Like, you just wake up and you're like,
I play
listen to that scene again.
I play it on repeat as I fall asleep at night.
Yeah.
It's soothing.
Another scene where I noticed the music or the score, when Kim was in that guy's office and he was showing her. Yeah.
It was like almost creepy music.
Yeah, ominous.
Yeah, it was ominous. It's like, at first it's like, okay, maybe it's like she's really impressed by everything, but you don't see that in her face at all. And the music doesn't sound pleasant enough for it. And as it goes on, you're like, I feel kind of sick.
Yeah, I don't really know what to read into that scene. I don't know if it's a stretch, but my thought was that looking at the houses reminded her of Chuck's house. And which kind of makes sense because it's shortly thereafter we see her hand Jimmy the letter.
Right. So
I don't know if it was making her... But there was a pretty strong focus on the guy sitting on the horse, the statue. Yeah, I guess we'll talk about that one more when we go back through the full episode.
One thought that crossed my mind was, did she read the letter that was intended for Jimmy? And maybe it said something in the letter about some way in which Chuck knew that Jimmy did something to give Kim to help Kim get that job that she didn't know about, and or maybe she found out about some way in which Jimmy cheated to help her get that job, and now she feels guilty about it. But I don't think that's what it is.
No.
So yeah, I don't know what was it that was bothering her? I'm not really sure, and I think it's possible we're both just missing something that maybe is more
we'll
obvious.
Pick up on it when we go back through, or maybe it just is intentionally unclear right now.
Yeah. By the way, just a quick aside, when the little conversation that Mike and Jimmy had in the diner, I thought was great. It kind of showed a humane side to Mike when he just says, I don't think that. When he's like, the job isn't for me, and he's like, I don't think it should be for you either.
Yeah, I wrote down right here in my notebook, Mike cares.
That's funny. I wrote Mike humanity. And I also liked when he referred to the little figurine as he goes, valuable Wunderkind.
Wait, who said that? Jimmy said that?
Mike called it that.
He said, this valuable Wunderkind.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, the other big takeaway, Predator. The movie looks pretty cool.
Oh, I skipped the commercial.
Oh, I usually skip the commercial, but I was watching on YouTube TV, so all the commercials were in there, and I was clicking the skip forward button, and I saw that trailer,
I caught a glimpse of that as I was skipping, and did see like the Predator's face was kind of lit up, which I thought looked kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. But I just couldn't wait to get to the next scene.
Yeah.
I also thought that I'm starting just a tad to see the twins as more as characters and not just the Terminators that you described when we last talked about it. Mm-hmm. The way they rescued Nacho, they still didn't really interact or express much emotion or anything, but he's giving his own blood directly into Nacho's veins, and Nacho betrayed them. He tried to kill their uncle.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't go so far as to say I have sympathy for the twins because they're really bad people, but it does I feel something for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought that, I forget exactly when it was, but there was a moment where I think one of the twins showed like urgency or concern for a second. Yeah. I think when he got out of the car and he was looking for Nacho.
Exactly. Right. That's a side of them we have not seen, except for, maybe a look of concern when Hank was about to blow his head off.
Right.
What's great is if at some point we're going to probably rewatch some, if not all, of Breaking Bad, and it's going to give us way more meaning behind some of those scenes. You know, the twins are more fleshed out characters for us now than they were back then, and so now to watch them get shot by another character that we know and love, it's going to add a whole new layer of meaning to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love when Jimmy called to the vet to help him find a burglar. He says, "I have a sick fish." Yeah. I was just wondering, can fish even get sick?
I know. I was thinking about that for like a minute. I was like, how would you even know your fish is sick? Yeah. He just gets like, has vertigo. He's swimming around like crazy.
Yeah. I think he's drowning. Okay. The burglar getting trapped in the office was so funny. Like, in what other show would they do that?
And my favorite thing about that whole situation,
The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh no, that was funny. But at the end of it, I thought that guy is going to try and screw over Jimmy somehow and be like, I'm keeping your half after having to go through that crap. Or I thought maybe to make up for having to go through all that, he was going to take all the rest of the figurines and Jimmy was going to be like, there's no way we're going to get away with it now. But he was just pleasant. He was like, oh, nobody said it would be easy.
Yeah, they were just palling around after. Yeah. It reminded me of the flashbacks we saw of Slippin' Jimmy back when he had that partner.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Yeah,
I thought this is a new friend, maybe.
It was fun. Like it was kind of I think the reason Jimmy doesn't care, at all about this Chuck stuff and like his personality is definitely changed, right? It seems like his moral filter is kind of degraded. He's lying to Kim totally right now, and she's being so loyal to him and expressing so much care and sadness over what he's going through. And here he is sneaking out in the middle of the night to go steal, not telling her anything. But so I think we're really starting to see him becoming Saul now. I would think, he's got to get his law degree back, and basically that's when he becomes the gorilla with a machine gun.
Yeah.
But like you said.
Oh, he's got a new friend.
Oh, right. So after, like, I hope that they continue to do more stuff together, because I'm not used to seeing people on the show interact where they're really just being friendly and pleasant to each other. Either you're seeing like, strained relationships that Jimmy has with other people, or you're seeing Gus killing, other people that we care about or have never met before. So to see just two guys getting along, even if it's in that context, it was just kind of pleasant to see.
Yeah, this show's really taking its time getting to where it needs to be. I wouldn't mind if they spent a season building up the relationship between Jimmy and this new guy, and it's just sort of a, buddy grifter season.
Yeah, if it's kind of like a reboot of him becoming a full blown kind of con artist. Yeah. I think they won't go on a diversion like that, because I think they have a lot of ground to cover probably, and I suspect they don't have too many seasons left in them. But if they did do what you just said, I would love it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. If anything happens between Jimmy and this new character, I think it'll all be in service of moving towards the conclusion.
Yeah. So I don't have too much left to say in my immediate reactions. One thing I liked near the end was, so we talked about Saul's reaction to the letter, but the only thing he really said about it out loud, rather than just with his chewing, was, the man could write a letter.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole scene was great.
Yeah. That was an awesome episode. I can't think of a single criticism whatsoever.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I think we need to challenge ourselves to... We haven't said one bad thing about this show this whole season. Obviously we're doing this podcast because we like the show. But that's your challenge. Right. This is episode 3.5. Episode 3, when we do the full thing, I want you to think of one criticism that you have for this episode or a previous one.
Is my criticism allowed to be that there aren't more episodes?
My name's Gil,
And I'm Adam.
and this is
And this
Saulcast.
is Saulcast. Yeah.
Good stuff. Man, I'm starving.
Oh, if you search Ed vacuum repair, the first result is erectile dysfunction treatment and care.
Oh my god.